So we are here with Albert Biermann, the founder of M and now N. It's a pleasure to be speaking with you. I've got a couple questions for you. So I personally have had an E39 M5 and an E46 M3, which I believe are cars you've worked on. And currently I've got a McLaren 600 LT. And my favorite part about cars is the steering feel, which you apparently have mastered. And with the Ioniq 5N, it also had an incredible steering feel. What goes into making it feel engaging? Because it feels like most manufacturers completely mess that up.
Steering feel, steering response is one of our core values. Because if you want to approach a car and enjoy the car driving, bring it to the limits, you need that steering feedback as the most important, most relevant factor and the connecting line between you and the car. So we put tons of effort on this from the start with N. With the first car in the US, it was the Veloster. We changed the whole front axle kinematics.
Gotcha.
Everything is changed, and it's the same almost on every N car. So that is the fundamental thing. And of course, on a powerful front-wheel drive car, you end up easily with horrible torque steer, right? This kind of things. But as you mentioned, I was working on rear-wheel driven cars for quite some time. And then I enter the high-performance front-wheel drive cars, and I figure out, torque steer can be really annoying. But torque steer is also some valuable input.
Yeah.
And if you treat it well, and that was the game on the front-wheel drive cars.
Gotcha.
To balance the feedback you get from the tires, from steering, and find the sweet spot between torque steer, which is annoying, and valuable feedback where you feel how much power actually you put on the tarmac. And this is what our own legacy is now on the N cars. You can sense the level of power you put down. If it's dry, if it's wet, the front axle really talks to you intensely. And we tried, of course, to achieve the same level with our first EV high-performance car, with the Ioniq 5N. And of course, it's an all-wheel drive car, so you can have other values talking to you with oversteer, power slides, and all this stuff we couldn't do in the past on the front-wheel drive cars so much. So now on the Ioniq 5N, we have the whole cabinet full of tools to make the car talk to the driver, but still, steering is very important. And also, same procedure. The front axle is completely, all the kinematics are different from the basic Ioniq 5, which is already a really good car, but to make it an N car, so the car has to speak to you much louder, much more intense. Yeah.
Was there a big difference between tuning for hydraulic steering to make it feel good versus going to electronically assisted power steering?
It was not easy to switch to the electromechanical steering. I mean, I went through this with the M3 car at that time, but we took that challenge, although it was the early stage of electromechanical steering. And was it perfect? No, I mean, there's no perfect car on this planet, right?
Of course.
But I think it was already quite good. And when I look at it, what we can do today, because it is electromechanical controllable, especially when we look at our N cars with front-wheel drive and torque steer, and then the limited slip comes in, right? Also electronically controlled. And the features, the control logic, we have developed ourselves within N to manage torque steer, limited slip interventions, and to smoothen this out in a way that you would never sense it. There is something in the background helping you to smoothen all these edges. So that gives us so many opportunities we could never have with an hydraulic steering.
Gotcha.
So in the end, it turns out it is the better steering. But in the first days, everybody was like sad. This makes no sense,
Yeah.
But it's the same game, I think, that we are going through now with EVs. Now people saying the petrol heads, come forget the EVs, But now, not so many years later, many people will agree, these cars are incredible fun, and it will take some time to get there. And I think with Ioniq 5N, maybe we are the first to make the crazy, joyful EV. And so I think now the reference point is there for everybody, and I'm sure everybody will follow very fast.
I agree. Outside of Hyundai and BMW, do you have a favorite handling car?
can't say so. I don't drive so much other brands' cars.
Fair enough.
In the beginning, and when I went into this front-wheel drive era, I drove some front-wheel drive cars, but at some point, I just decide our own way, where we need to go, not following anybody.
Fair enough.
So, and this is the same we did on Ioniq 5N. Whom to follow? There's nobody out there. So for the entertaining parts, we made our own reference points for the sound, the shifting character in the NE shift. So our reference is the i30N or the Elantra N with a double clutch transmission. Yeah, our double clutch transmission is a wonderful piece of technology, and there's no other front wheel drive car with such a transmission on this planet. And why look at something else if you have the reference in-house? Like for DCT, but also for sound. I mean, our N cars, they're really famous for their incredible sound. So we follow our own reference and no need to look left and right. So, but you know, same story, same game. Make it a fun machine.
It's lighter, so you can make it work.
Small engine, not so much power. But the only target throughout the whole development is always good feedback, approachable, have a good confident feel when you push a car. The car needs to talk to you strongly, and you should enjoy pushing it to the limit. Yeah, that is always the most important thing. And so controllability. So when we develop the engines, I don't care for the maximum horsepower. It's meaningless. I need good response linearity to support the cornering, and so you manage the car, the driving dynamics with a responsive linear engine, right? That's much more important to me than 5 or 10 horsepower more.
Sure.
And that was not so easy to make the engineers understand what matters, you know. So and then torque steer discussions, which were a no-go in our company because we suffered on that on some cars in the past. We said, this is a different game. A certain level of torque steer, that's a value. It's not an issue, it's not a problem. Yeah, that's a core value of our car. So to make people this transition and understand what the game is of an N car. And then the final tuning, so until the very end we keep the flexibility in the front splitter to make the aero balance. And we have tons of results from the wind tunnel. This is nice, but in the end also kind of meaningless, because the decision how much we put the splitter out, we make here at Schwedenkreuz, right? If you go there with 180 or something, and how confident do you feel in the car? Yeah, and if you don't feel confident, okay, we just give it a little more, a little bit less, so we fine-tune those aero high speed here. Because that is the important thing, how you feel in the car. And that is throughout the whole development, right? And of course, now with Ioniq 5N, we have a whole different array of things we can do. Yeah, so we tune the virtual gear shifts, right? The VGS. I mean, typically then, when you develop a double clutch transmission, you go for fast shifting, right? You don't want to lose a tenth of a second through the shifting. But on a one gear EV like we have, that is meaningless, because the non-shifting car is always the fastest. But when our engineers started to present me the first virtual gear shift, there was not a strong shifting jolt, right? And you have to keep a little torque in the pocket to make that jolt. If you don't have torque that you reduce first to hammer it in, you can handle a jolt. And then I told them, hey, where's all the jolt gone? Oh yeah, so if we do like this, the car is like so and so much faster. I said, that's not the point. Without gear shift, that is the fastest anyway. Why would you care about the acceleration? It's all about fun. Yeah, and then, okay, but you make the people understand what matters for this virtual gear shift in an EV. So now we have a very authentic shift feel in the car. It's very close to what you find in an Elantra N DCT. And so after going in some circle for some time, I asked then the engineer who developed and tuned our DCT transmission of the Elantra N, Duncan Kim. He tuned the NE shift in the Ioniq 5N because he knows all the torques and coast torque and everything in and out. So he got the job then, and then okay, we go where we are now. Same with the sound, right? So to find this authentic combination of sound and shifting and the HMI, when we put the first car out with this, the RN22, the rolling lap, we didn't have a ref gauge, right? No shift lights. Okay, the sound was not like it is, the shifting was not like it is today, but it was not bad. But the people were lost in it because there was no feedback. Which RPM? When should I shift? What's going on?
Their whole frame of reference that
right.
they come from was shot.
And at that point, I mean, for the RN22, we just took Ioniq 5M prototype parts, put them in, and here we go, right? That was our RNE22. So just to prepare and do some storytelling. But yeah, that was interesting then really to see without ref gauge, you end up like nowhere, right? But it was all in the works already, so just a matter of timing. So yeah, and these are the things where, I mean, you always have to make sure your engineers don't escape to the traditional way of thinking and numbers like lap times and power and whatever. That's not our game. The game is just to combine all those instruments that you have in the car to make this end sound, right? This end, the end character. And this is just this joyful feel that the car really loves to be pushed by you, but you're in full control. You have a good understanding where the car is at, and it should always be fun, not scary.
Yeah.
I mean, I think there's no doubt that sooner or later, the typical petrol head combustion fun is over. It's unavoidable. If we seriously think about carbon neutral, there's no way out. And actually, I'm surprised nobody is moving forward and bringing enjoyable, fun, high-performance EVs.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, I started working on this virtual gear shifts with my engineers in Namyang 6-7 years ago. We built a concept car, Ioniq EV, this little front-wheel drive EV, and so we were working with speakers and vibrators in the seat and stuff, and it was all nice, but not so much convincing, and we were all like desperate. And I remember we were out there on the test track, and we were standing there with a few guys, and what can we do? And so I asked the question, why don't we just shift? And they look at me like I'm completely nuts. We have only one gear. I said, yeah, I know, but let's try to shift. We can somehow try. And then we tried on that car. And that was the first car doing this shifting. It was not like what you see today. And the sound and the combination of everything was not like that. But we started slowly working on it because, I mean, you guys... when we came out with the N cars, the first ones, people already asked me, this is nice, but you are really late in the game. What do you think? How can you have a future with CO2 restrictions and so on? And my answer was always easy. Don't worry. We will always come up with something that makes tons of fun and it's affordable. That's what N is. Dollar per, the fun per dollar, nobody can be even close to us. That's clearly my goal. So, and I said, don't worry, we will come up with something. At that time, I had no idea how good VGS could ever be, right? But we already worked, and then we got the go for the Ioniq 5N, and then, of course, we push a lot and keep working on this, and then the fun really starts. I mean, then, but yeah, so we made it in time. It was a close call. We had many loops of tuning, for the sound, for the shifting, and everything. Yeah, but in the end, I think it's for the first outing, it's quite good and impressive, and I don't know any person that complains about it after it drove the car, right? Before everybody thinks, come on, forget it, it's all fake. Once they get out of the car, they can't believe this.
Thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it.
You're welcome.